The company Solar States is teaming up with the Philadelphia School District to help prepare students for careers using solar energy.
Solar States flip the switch of the largest solar panel array in Philadelphia.
Welcome back to another episode of Yooo Sun!
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Yooo Sun. I'm your host, Micah Goldmarkel, here with
Jared Pashko. And today on the show, we've got a huge friend of Solar States, longtime advocate of solar, Andrew Adelman from Enphase, technical director, trainer. Welcome to the show.
Yooo Sun!
Yooo Sun!
Yo,
oh,
let's
Andrew's
go
the
with
first
it.
one.
How
Andrew's the
long have
first
you
one to
known
Yooo
Solar
us back.
States?
Oh my goodness.
How long have I known of you guys, or like how long have I worked with you guys?
I mean, I don't know. I know you for 4 years, I think.
You know me for 4 years. I know of Solar States for whatever 10 years because you guys are the guys in my backyard doing what I'm doing. So, you know, I wouldn't have had any business with you until about 4 years ago when I started working with Enphase, but your name preceded you.
Hey, can we just get, for those who might not know, can you give us a little description of what Enphase is?
Sure. So we are a inverter and battery. We're an energy company, right? So the way we're positioned now, it's not. We were a microinverter company, and then we were a microinverter and battery company, and then we were a microinverter and battery and EV charger company. And I think what we're getting at is that we're a green energy system company and a renewable energy company.
Cool. Well, I got to give you some props in the beginning of the show. You know, we here at Solar States, our passion is education. Yes, you, Andrew. Our passion is education. Our mission is education and installation. We want to be the on-ramp to the green collar economy for inner city Philadelphians. But Andrew has really been a great friend. We started a program at Frankfurt High School a few years back. Shout out to the Philadelphia Energy Authority, our partner in that program. You know, Andrew put his money where his mouth is. He showed up with the Enphase van to our class, you know, did a wonderful job demonstrating to students what microinverters are, what they do, how they work. It was one of the best classes we had there, Andrew. So I just wanted to come on the show and say thank you for that.
That's very kind. You got thank me, but I thank Enphase for allowing me to use their asset to do something that, you know, I care about, you care about, the world should care about, the city particularly should care about. So, you know, I'm just a conduit for a good business.
That's great. Well, thank you.
There's a
Enphase
really great
too.
picture of that day memorialized somewhere. I think, Andrew, you're in the front with, like, you know, you got the peace sign going or something wacky. It's great.
The hang loose.
I'm trying to relate to the youth.
Right, there you go. Well, I mean, on that subject, I mean,
failing at relating to the youth.
To tell us a little bit about your job. I mean, you're related. You know, you're all around the country trying to, you know, relate to people in different cultures and communities.
Yeah. So the gig is sort of a fewfold. So I go around with the Enphase van, which is a training van that has a IQ8 and you know, an Enphase battery system. So there's 2 battery systems on it right now. It's going to be switched entirely to the 5P battery really, really soon. So I drive that around and show people how to use the equipment by actually letting them touch it. So I slide out a couple of demo walls. The guys get to wire it, commission it. It's a great opportunity for folks that turn wrench for a living to actually turn wrench at a training. So that makes my job really, really, really easy because, you know, I've done technical training for a long time and I've never had a piece of collateral like that. So usually when you're dealing with training, you're dealing with a guy talking in front of a PowerPoint slide deck, and maybe the most interesting thing is the laser pointer. And like, I find that like the people that need to learn this stuff, they're not, typically, 8 times out of 10, they're not installing solar for a living because they were really good at taking lectures in class and they found that really interesting, right? What they are kinetic people. They're like doers, and doers want to do. So as they're doing and excited about playing with the stuff, it allows me to like weasel in and kind of actually talk to them and like sneak in training around something that's a little more fun to play with.
Very
I
cool,
can't
man.
stop thinking about that song. What's that song? It's like haters they gon' hate and ballers they gonna ball. Doers they gon' do.
There you go. Doers are
There
gonna
you
do.
go.
Yeah.
Doers are gonna do. No, I love that you're so passionate about hands-on. I mean, that's our thing as well, is you can't teach solar without doing solar. How are you gonna,
No.
just talk about the theory and nobody ever touches a drill or a solar panel or a roof or any of that?
Right.
So that's our big thing is hands-on, and it's great to know that Enphase has that ethos as well. You got to
Yeah.
be hands-on with it. Um, and frankly, the products need that sort of training. I mean, microinverters, yes, they've been around for a while, but they have new capabilities. You have, new ways of attaching them one to another. I
Mhm.
remember when I came in, it was trunk cable, now it's Q cable. There's a whole product evolution that's
We're
happened.
releasing a commercial product that the cabling works. I mean, not completely differently, but differently enough that it's pretty confusing. And
Mhm.
I didn't get it just by reading the design guide. I needed to fly to Austin,
Yeah.
go to the R&D facility, touch the stuff, and I was like, oh, now I get it. And that
Yeah.
light bulb is, it's the best moment. So
Right.
yeah, it's nice to be able to deliver that.
Right. So when I first came into this industry, everything, not everything, but most things were grid tied systems.
Sure.
90% of our business, 95% of our business was grid
Hmm.
tied systems. And now we're seeing people who want to be able to survive grid outages. We're seeing people who want to play with time of use rates and things like that. There's been a lot of complexity added. And one of the things that I loved over the years, we took the complexity out of going solar. When I first installed, you had probably 70 parts that you needed to install when you were installing just a solar
Yeah.
array. Now,
Yeah.
if you're installing a solar array, it's maybe like 20 parts at the most. Um,
Yeah.
but
You
we're
needed
adding
the fast jack
complexity.
and the washer on top of the fast
Yeah,
jack,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the nut underneath of it, and then like just
And
the
the
bolt
weave
stack
and
had
the
15 different
bearing.
parts.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Had 15 different parts to it. And you're always
yeah.
like,
Mhm.
man, I dropped one
Yeah.
part. Oh,
Now it's
man.
wiggly. I got to take the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But I find that with batteries and with being going off grid, we're adding complexity back in. And so how are you guys dealing with this added complexity of load management and neutral forming transformers and all this stuff that's going in?
Yeah. So, I mean, Enphase is good at making things simple, but I don't know what you're talking about is weird. It's like adding you're not adding complexity to the solar game. You're adding a whole skill. Like, so batteries are not PV systems, and the design therein is like it's a radically different mindset than generate a bunch of net metered PV and give a homeowner an SREC or a tax credit or, and then whatever savings. It's, I mean, Jared knows selling this is completely different selling than PV. Designing it is completely different than designing it, and installing it is, component wise, it's similar if you think of a battery as a PV array, but not everyone does. And you need a transfer switch of some kind, or whatever. So yeah, it's teaching people, it's teaching the battery trade to people that are in the PV trade. it's just happenstance that it even fell on these PV people at all. Like it's PV folks said, oh, these batteries pair nicely, but it could have just as easily been like, oh, I install generators for a living, now I'm just going to install batteries for
Right.
it could have been that guy just as easily.
Totally.
So it's that companies like yours are taking on these new technologies, and you're finding them like a greater deal of complexity just because you're not used to the bits and bobs and parts of them. So the way Enphase does it, or the way Enphase handles it, I think is by, it's one brand and one ecosystem. It all works together. It all wires together really, really similarly. So if you could wire a PV system into a combiner panel, you could wire a battery into a combiner panel, add a transfer switch, and Bob's your uncle. So, in terms of
My uncle's name is Ed, by the way.
Uncle Bob's a weird guy. You don't want to have Thanksgiving with Uncle Bob. I mean, it's ultimately, I feel like, I don't know if I'm speaking for Enphase, but I feel like that complexity is your problem. Like, it's up to us to make technology that works really well, but we can't size it for you, right? Like, know what's in a homeowner's home. What fails, when things fail, often it's a system that's just sized wrong or configured wrong. And like, not to be, I'll be curt for a second, like, Enphase is not the North or the South. We're the bullet manufacturer. And if you use a bullet that's too small to take down a buck, don't blame the bullet manufacturer, blame the guy shooting the gun. So not that I do much hunting here in the wilds of Narberth, but that's kind of like Enphase is positioned as a manufacturer, not as a
I gotta give Andrew a little crap. He's moved out to the suburbs now. He's hoity-toity, He's like he was almost too good to come on Yooo Sun. Now he holds his pinky up. He holds his pinky while drinking, and it's like it's a whole new Andrew here.
He also left a wonderful solar array that he helped build. That he built. That's that's now in Philadelphia. You left it. You abandoned it. Not only did you abandon us.
No. Those are tenants. I still own that house. I rent it out.
Okay.
All right.
And someday I will flee back to it. But no, now I have tenants that take advantage of what we all so graciously built.
Yeah.
I guess for them. And I'm in the middle of building one on this roof too. It's the permits in with my city.
You left the People's Republic of Mount Airy, man. I mean, I can't believe it.
It did lean politically differently than the main line.
To say it very lightly.
Different kind of dude up there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I find myself perfectly at home here, and I found myself perfectly at home in Mount Airy. So I'm happy, but when I'm on the road now, I hate being asked the question, "Where do you live?" Because
can't say Philly.
Can't say Philly. Can't say Philly, even though I could throw a baseball to Philly. But
if I was you, I'm saying Philly.
yeah. I've had a little awakening about this. I obviously I grew up in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, born and raised like the Fresh Prince,
Same.
and being Philadelphians, you probably had this too, where you met tons of people around the world who would say, when I would ask them where they're from, "Oh, Philly. I'm from Philly too. Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Doylestown." And it'd be like, "Oh man, come on, bro. You're not from Philly.
Right.
Come on, dog. You can't be doing that.
Right.
I'm from here." But as I've gotten older, I actually love that. I love that people from the surrounding area associate themselves with Philadelphia. I don't look at it anymore as this, you're not really, you're faking it. It's more awfully
giving of you, Micah.
You can call yourself a Philadelphian to anybody that's not from Philadelphia, but if it's somebody from Philadelphia, You are
Yeah.
not a Philadelphian.
I mean, most of my career, most of my solar career, the vast majority of it was spent in California. So I got all my chops there and early. And when you're out far away and somebody says they're from Philly, it's no, but like if I'm, where are you from? Philly, you're King of Prussia. But if I'm talking to somebody around the corner from me, that's fine. But when we're at a distance, it seemed more grating.
It's all relative. It's like Einstein said, it's all
Right.
relative.
How does it feel?
So how does it feel? So back to Enphase. You guys have been launching new products left and right.
Mhm.
IQ8, batteries, EV chargers, load shedding devices, all sorts of stuff. Are you guys going to continue this breakneck speed of new stuff, or
Yeah.
refinement?
In,
Where
in
are
fact,
you going?
yeah. So, I mean, I can't say everything. I think I'm under an NDA actually.
Wow.
But I know
Uh-oh.
we've restructured the business to more efficiently turn products out. So, like we see our only way to survive is to innovate. I think that's like a truism. That's a cliche. And but Enphase is becoming really relentless about that. So the major sticking point for people way higher up on the totem pole than I am is the efficiency with which we're able to get product out. Like the old joke that I would tell in classes, I'd always be asked like, "Hey, when's that reverse charger coming out so that I could, backwards?" And I'll say a number, whatever, 2 months. But when an Enphase guy says 2 months, it's probably
It's
6 months.
2 years.
Yeah, whatever. There is that joke, right? And I think that joke doesn't really resonate that well with the C-suite, right? Like that's not funny
I
to
can
them.
see that. I can see that.
And they've made some really, really big moves recently to to clean up that. And
Okay.
that's honestly, that's like the best part of working there is that it's like not a boring place. It's not a rest on your laurel place. And it's not, they don't have like, they don't think about it philosophically. They think about it very pragmatically. They're not like, we're Kaizen because we're a Bay Area company and we learned that word at Burning Man. Like that, and there is that level of that in the industry that we've all like butted up against, and it's obnoxious. Enphase is very much like very square, very efficient engineers from all over the world that don't go in for that, and that goes right up to the CEO. And it's so much fun to work for can I curse on the podcast?
Of course, you can do
It's so
whatever
much
you
fun to
want.
work for a no bullshit company
There you go.
that is just handling business, and they're doing it really well.
That's
That's
awesome.
great.
I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
transition for a second because I think one of the values of having industry experts like yourself on the podcast is getting getting a hot take from you for our listeners on, you know, what are the big takeaways on going solar or things people should look at or what's to come. You've got an inside track. We're trying to get the behind the scenes look. What are we telling people in your mind?
Okay, so I've been in the industry a long time, and I've been in the industry long enough that everything that we think is avant-garde and cutting edge becomes commonplace. So what we're gonna see is here's why my brain goes to that. Batteries are going to be a standard part of a PV system in like a not very distant future.
Oh
Prices
yeah,
are
we're
coming down to
seeing
me.
that already. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
So I'll tell you an anecdote. So I started my career in Berkeley, California. And Berkeley, as you guys know, is sort of like this hippy dippy sort of
Crunchy.
part of the world. Yeah, crunchy. And I did this like the same client over and over again. He was just this like well-heeled liberal hippie over and over and over. It would take us 5 days to build a 3 kilowatt system, and that was perfectly reasonable. And he had a brand new Prius in his driveway because it was 2007. It's that guy over and over until about 2010, right? 2010, things started saturating. So blah, blah, blah. So I got this job about an hour and a half out, maybe Visalia, maybe Modesto, maybe Merced. I forget where it was. And I go into this guy's basement to do a tie-in, an electrical tie-in. And I had my pipe and my little knack box. And I saw this huge swastika flag. And
Oh
I
my
looked,
goodness.
it's a true story. I looked to the left of me, and there was like vintage uniforms, and the dog spoke German, and there was a gun case right over there. I was like, oh shit, I know exactly what's going on in this house. So my, not apprentice, but like the guy I was teaching how to do the work,
Yeah, your
Sam,
helper.
my helper, came up to me. He's like, dude, I think I got AC electrical down. I can do this tie-in. You're Jewish. I bet this makes you uncomfortable. I was like, Sam, dude, are you kidding? If this guy's going solar, everybody's going solar. This is now a totally because we're on the solar coaster. At the time, the future of that was not as written in stone. Nowadays, you build a solar system for a customer, like you barely ever talk to him again. It's not a festive thing. So we're going to see batteries become commonplace in that same way, and it'll become apparent to us when that happens. And so that's one direction I see the industry going.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I see NEM 3 standards as set by California. I see those trickling into a lot
Hold
of
on,
markets.
let's give some acronym definitions. NEM, Net Energy Metering 3, is the
Mhm.
policy in California. Basically, the long story short is you can't really backfeed solar to the grid, so it really heavily incentivizes batteries as a way of making solar an economical choice.
That's right. It's a really quick and dirty explanation. But yeah, that's it. And Duke Energy is now under that, right down in North Carolina. Virginia is about to pop. So we're going to see less favorable net metering more and more. I think that's unfortunate. And I think that's going to be another thing that's going to drive people towards batteries, and maybe not even batteries for backup power, but just like batteries to offset your bill. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
have a
grid tied
question
batteries.
actually, and I'm kind of shocked I don't know the answer to this, but are people who have solar systems that were prior to a net metering change grandfathered in, or do they have to comply with
They
new
don't
net
have to
metering?
comply.
So Jared,
No,
I
it's
mean, I
not.
think we have a selling point here. Get in while the
Yeah.
net metering
Right.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the cautionary tale is that people that told that story are having a tough time selling jobs now.
Oh,
So
okay,
the
Yeah.
fair
the
enough.
the story is it's always a good time to buy.
Yes,
Right,
that's
right.
right.
uh,
Well, you
yeah,
know what? Actually, this is something really interesting, and I tell people about this all the time. First of all, you couldn't be more right, Andrew. I started at Solar States almost 4 years ago. I think we sold two batteries that year. This year, we probably sold 30, 50. I mean, it's a third of all of our projects are sold with batteries, and it goes to show that it's just becoming more commonplace. A
yeah.
lot of those folks are installing batteries with the primary reason of backup power. They're replacing their dirty old generator that's loud and smells with
Yeah, and
a nice
Pico, that's
new,
yeah,
you know,
reasonable.
um, battery that has a lot better performance and technology in it. But they are not unfamiliar with the fact that there are a lot of other economic benefits right now in PA, or in Pico territory. The primary value is time of use, rate structures, saving money there. But something that I talk to people about a lot is, I know I have one customer that he's discharging his battery every day because he cares about the quality of his life and he wants to only be using kind of an off-grid life cycle, right? Well, he's already into that NEM 3 lifestyle. I know
Yeah,
people in California, they're getting paid dollars for discharging their right now you're getting net metering on your batteries, not on your solar.
yeah. There's basically in California, there's like 6 hours of one day where if you discharge your battery, you make up for a good deal of the net metering dollars that have been taken away from you.
The
So
virtual power
it's like,
plant, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
someday in September, it's like September 18th or something. If you discharge a battery, it's worth a fortune to you. And without that, your solar system has like a 15-year buyback. And with that, your solar system has an 8-year buyback. It's some like crazy thing. So it's not, uh, it has become more difficult to sell in the market in one sense, but in the other sense, the attach rate for batteries has gone like crazy up.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, you know, that's a good thing. I think having resilience in the house is really something that, looking towards a climate sort of unsure future, we don't know how stable the grid is going to be. We don't know. But
Sure.
you mentioned something, this virtual power plants, or Jared mentioned it. You know, I think this is the future, and clearly some utilities are in on it. I've heard, or I've read a lot about how Germany is using this virtual power plant model with Sonnen, and they can, at any time sort of call on power from 30,000 batteries around the
Mhm.
country. I mean, I don't understand why all utilities aren't in on this. Is this the type of stuff that Enphase is involved in? Are they talking to
100%.
utilities?
A
That's
hundred
good.
percent.
That's good
Yeah,
to
yeah,
hear.
yeah. We have a pretty robust grid services program, and yeah, it makes batteries sell themselves in Connecticut and Massachusetts. Like
Yes, yes.
the
I believe
utility.
Eversource has a program. Yep.
Yeah, I was with a student last week. I think it was last week. I was up in Worcester at a training center that we have up there, and he installed his own system, so the economics were like a little different. But basically, like they give you this loan at a 0% interest rate to install your batteries, and then give you like a really nice amount of money every time they cycle your batteries a certain amount of times. And evidently, it works out really well for the utility because they don't have to build a peaker plant, right? It just think of the permit cost of a power plant and like how you could just push that onto the consumer and make them get batteries, and it just the economics work out in a really tidy way. We're going to see that proliferate huge. It's going to be a tough sell. Pennsylvania is really cheap power,
Oh,
and plenty
PA
of
is a
it.
tough nut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
PA is a tough
You know
nut,
what?
but
One of the things that always I thought was confusing, and Micah, you know the electrical piece of this, and Andrew too, better than I do. But I mean, the amount of infrastructure costs and energy line loss going from huge power plants over high tension lines through substations, it just feels to me like it's a win for the utility companies too, because they can start retiring that heavy duty equipment, or at least downgrading it, because it's all coming from these kind of localized networks of 10 people in a neighborhood with solar arrays and battery systems that are powering, the near around 100 houses, or even maybe there's a small solar farm, on a larger property nearby. I mean, it feels like, to your point, like utility companies, it's in their benefit to to really promote this
they
kind of
wouldn't they wouldn't do it if it wasn't in their benefit, and it's being
right.
done. So they're not philanthropists. Those
Yeah.
smoky back rooms at utility companies. They're not talking about how
Sure.
they could make things easier for yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's to their benefit, but oddly, some are embracing it more than others, and I wonder why that is. Like you said, in Massachusetts, they
Yeah.
have all of this very innovative virtual power plant stuff going on. In Pennsylvania, zero. I mean, it's like,
A lot of it's driven by cost of electricity and age of equipment. So in PA, that energy cost is so low that it may make sense for Pico for some years to come to just burn natural gas, give it to you
Yeah, it's funny you say that because
12 cents a watt.
I remember talking with some folks at the energy office in Philadelphia, I think it was, and like we had these old, metal halide street lights, and they were totally inefficient. And like, I think we still have them, and up until this year, and I kept saying, "Hey, why don't you replace those with LEDs? Like, it's got to be saving you money to go to LEDs, right? It's got to be. It's got to be." They were like, we have a futures contract for the energy purchase on those lights, and it's at like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. They're like,
Right.
the payback on a retrofit is going to be very
Yeah.
difficult.
I
was
got to
like,
talk to some
holy,
union dude about
yeah,
climbing a
yeah,
pole and getting in a
yeah.
cherry picker and and buy an LED. Come on, man. It's thousands of dollars you're talking about
Right,
per
yeah.
light.
Thousands of
Yeah.
dollars,
At a
and like,
tenth of
and the
the
energy
energy cost.
cost, even with a hog, is like $10 a year,
Yeah.
$20 a year. So I was like, oh man, that really sucks. But I mean, it's good to have low energy prices, but I think they got to be real. You know what I mean? And it feels sometimes that they're so low that they're not really real. You know what I mean? So
Am I hearing some conspiracy theory on the
I'm,
Yooo Sun podcast today?
I'm going to come up with my tinfoil hat a little bit and say I
Uh-huh.
think there's a little favoring, a little, thumb on the scale for some energy sources in the state of
Sure, I wouldn't doubt it.
you
Yeah,
know.
well, I wouldn't doubt that at all.
But that's the way life is, and that is what it is. So anyhow, back to Enphase. You guys have rolled out the IQ8s. I know that sunlight backup and all of this stuff is new and exciting. I know you're under an NDA, but come on, man, I got to press you. I got to come back to this. Where are you guys
I
going with the product
Yeah,
line?
I mean that like the residential product line.
Yes.
Uh, it's gonna be faster. The IQ9 is a real. It's a fast thing, which means it could play in different voltage windows, and that's gonna open up a real big market, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. Um, but no, I mean the things that are on the horizon. I'm not. The IQ9 is on the horizon.
Mhm.
We just released IQ8 commercial.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see commercial storage on the horizon. I would, there's plenty of chatter industry wide about Enphase's uh, reverse charging. There's
Bi-directional EV.
bidirectional EV charging. We'll see that happen. Uh, yeah. I don't get told anything. How about that? Let's go with that.
He's like, you're not
I
in the
know it's
smoky back rooms. You're not in the smoky back
no,
rooms.
no, 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 no. I'm nobody, and I'm
He's a
3,000
man in a
miles away
van.
from
Yeah.
headquarters.
Yeah,
I'm a man in a van, dude. That's all I am.
you're the pretty face of the company, man. You're up
Unfortunately, can you
front.
believe? Can you believe they hired this to be public facing?
We got to find that picture of him at Frankfurt. I know it's like it must be on our website or something.
Yeah, it is. It is a great shot. But also, I got to give a shout out to Andrew for coming to Solar States and running trainings as well. So it's not just at Frankfurt he showed up. He's come to Solar States. So
I got mad respect for. So I've told you, Micah, that like the plan for my career was going to be to come back from California to Philly to open essentially Solar States.
That's right.
And it had already been done by the time I was, ready to hop off that lily pad and come back to this one. It was already 5-6 years old by the time I had it wound up on my radar. And let me tell you a story. The other day I was in New Orleans. I was doing a training down south, deep south. I was in Alabama and Mississippi and Pensacola. It was in Louisiana. And I went into this shop and I saw, on Royal Street, maybe like in the corridor, the shop, they had this chandelier that was blown glass to look like an octopus. And it was like a little bit goth and a little bit edgy. And I need a new chandelier for my dining room in my house on the main line. So I said,
I love this.
I said to the
already.
shopkeep, I said, "Hey, shopkeep, what do you want for that chandelier?" And he said, No, the drummer from Tool just bought that 3 days ago, so
Oh,
it's not for sale anymore. And my reaction to that was, "Oh man, He's so good, I can't even be mad. That's it, Micah. That's why I'm like, I'm a day late and a dollar short to opening Philadelphia's solar
Oh,
company, but the right guy did it. So it's
that's
like,
great
right, I
compliment.
can tolerate the chandelier being in the right hands.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do. I really do. Well, I think we got to move to one of our favorite subjects here, which is food. And
Okay.
you
Close
now
to my
have
heart.
you close to your heart.
Hmm.
You now have experience on Main Line and Mount Airy. Let's give the top three between those two locations. What's your top three food spots?
In both of those locations?
Just
Oh
between,
no.
like, you got to combine it for a top three.
Sure, boy. All right, so I know hate mail's coming, but Northwest Philadelphia has the worst food in the city.
Oh
Northwest
goodness,
Northwest
shots
Philly is
fired.
terrible. That said, there's Night Kitchen Bakery is really,
Oh
really
yeah,
good.
right.
Right on Germantown Ave. I would say here there is shout out Narberth. There's a little pho place, philosophy.
Oh, philosophy. Oh, I
Pho,
love that pun. Great pun.
yeah, I think that's what it's called. And it's really, really like good. It's better than serviceable, but not as good as my favorites. But for the main line, dude, I'm very, very happy to see it here. And
Okay,
I
that's
like the
two.
White Dog because they have oysters, and
Uh,
I'll slurp back a couple dozen of those. So they're not
White
as
Dog's great.
yeah.
obviously in the city they're easy to find, but out here there's only two or three places, and that's the White Dog's place I like to go.
And you gotta support the White Dog. I mean, they're classic.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been another episode of Yo Son. I'm your host, Micah Goldmarkel, here with
Jared Pashko.
Peace
Peace
out,
out,
Peace
y'all.
out.